Story 1. So, last month, I was scrolling through Facebook Marketplace, looking for some cheap furniture to spruce up my new apartment. I'm on a tight budget, so when I found this old wooden dresser for just $20, I jumped on it. The seller seemed legit, and the pictures looked fine, a bit worn, but nothing I couldn't fix with a little paint. I met the guy in some random parking lot, which I know sounds sketchy, but he seemed normal enough. Middle-aged, kind of scruffy, but friendly. We loaded the dresser into my car, and I brought it home that evening. It fit perfectly in the corner of my bedroom. I was pretty proud of my find, honestly. As I started cleaning it out, I noticed these weird carvings inside the drawers. They weren't obvious at first, but under the right light, you could see all these strange symbols etched into the wood. I figured it was just some old decoration, or maybe a kid had scratched them in. It didn't bother me much at the time, so I just wiped the drawers down and went about my day. That night, as I was getting ready for bed, I heard this loud banging noise. It startled me because I live alone, and I wasn't expecting any kind of noise. I walked over to the dresser, and as I got closer, I could see the drawers slowly sliding open and then slamming shut by themselves. My heart was pounding in my chest. I stood there frozen, watching it happen a few more times. I thought maybe the floor was uneven or something, but when I tried moving the dresser, it was stable. No way it was just tipping on its own. I'll be honest, I was freaked out, but I didn't really know what to do. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe I was just tired. I went to bed, but I couldn't sleep. Every little creak or sound made me jump. The next day, I decided to contact the seller. I wanted to ask him about the dresser, maybe find out where it came from. But when I went back to our chat, his profile was gone, like completely wiped from Facebook. No messages, no name, nothing. It was like he never existed. That's when I really started to panic. I dragged the dresser out to the backyard and left it there. I didn't care if it got rained on or stolen. I just wanted it out of my house. But the next morning, when I woke up, the dresser was back in my bedroom, sitting in the same spot as before. I swear I almost screamed. I knew I wasn't going crazy because I had left it outside. I called my friend, Alex, and told him everything. He's into all that paranormal stuff, so I figured he might have some advice. He came over, took one look at the dresser, and told me to get rid of it, like, permanently. He said burning it might be the only way to break whatever was going on. I didn't want to believe it, but at that point, I was desperate. We dragged the dresser into the fire pit in my backyard and set it on fire. The flames were huge, and it burned fast. I thought that would be the end of it. I felt a weird sense of relief as I watched it turn to ash. But that night, as I was lying in bed, I heard it again. The sound of drawers opening and closing. I sat up in bed, my heart racing. The dresser was gone, but the noise was still there, echoing through my room. I couldn't see anything, but the sound was unmistakable. It was like the dresser was still there, haunting me. A few nights later, I woke up to the sound of a voice. It was soft at first, humming a tune I didn't recognize. I sat up and listened, trying to pinpoint where it was coming from. Then it started singing, distorted and high-pitched, almost like a child's voice. I got up, my legs trembling, and followed the sound to my daughter's room. She wasn't supposed to be home. She was staying with her mom that weekend. I opened the door and saw her sitting on the bed facing the wall. My blood ran cold. I called her name, and she slowly turned around, her face lit by the moonlight. She smiled at me, but the voice that came out wasn't hers. It was the same distorted, high-pitched voice I had heard earlier. I rushed to her side, but as I got closer, she just disappeared. One moment she was there, and the next, she was gone. I was left standing in an empty room, my heart pounding out of my chest. I could still hear the singing, faint but persistent, coming from the walls. That was the last time I saw anything, but the sounds haven't stopped. Every night the drawers keep opening and closing, and sometimes I hear that voice, singing softly in the background. I've tried everything to make it stop, but nothing works. I've moved out of that apartment, but even in my new place, the noises follow me. It's like the dresser left a part of itself behind, something I can't get rid of no matter how hard I try. So, if you ever find a cheap dresser on Facebook Marketplace with strange carvings inside, think twice before bringing it home. You never know what you might be inviting in. Story 2. It all started when I picked up a free dog crate from Facebook Marketplace. I was super excited because I just got a new puppy, and getting a crate for free sounded like a steal. The listing didn't have much info, just a couple of pictures, and the message said, "Come pick it up. First come, first serve." I messaged the lady, and she told me to grab it from her front porch whenever I could. I drove over that evening. It was already getting dark, and the street didn't have any traffic lights, which made the whole area feel a bit eerie. The house looked a little run down, but I figured maybe the lady just didn't have time to keep up with maintenance. The crate was right there on the porch, so I grabbed it, tossed it in my trunk, and drove home. No big deal. When I got back, my puppy Max immediately started acting weird. He's usually super playful and curious, but when I brought the crate inside, he backed away from it. His fur stood up, and he started growling, which was so unlike him. I thought maybe it smelled like another dog, so I cleaned it out thoroughly, but he still wouldn't go near it. I didn't think too much of it at the time and just assumed he needed to get used to it. A few days passed, and every time I tried to coax Max into the crate, he would just bark and growl. I started noticing something else, though. There were these deep scratches inside the crate. At first, I thought maybe I just hadn't noticed them before, but they were pretty fresh, like something had been clawing at the inside. I couldn't figure out how they got there. Max wouldn't even touch the crate, so it didn't make sense. Curiosity got the best of me, so I tried contacting the seller again. Her profile was still there, but when I sent a message, it didn't go through. It just kept showing as unsent. I decided to drive back to the house to see if I could talk to her in person. When I got there, the place was completely empty. It looked abandoned, like no one had lived there for years. The windows were boarded up, and the front porch was covered in leaves and debris. I had this sinking feeling in my stomach. How could someone who wasn't even living there have posted the crate online? Freaked out, I decided to get rid of the crate. I drove it out to a random empty lot miles away from my house and left it there. I thought that would be the end of it, but the next morning it was back in my living room. I swear I almost passed out when I saw it. There was no way it could have gotten back on its own. I live alone, and no one else has a key to my place. I tried everything to get rid of it. I left it at a junkyard, threw it in a dumpster, even tried to burn it. But no matter what I did, it would always reappear in my house. The scratches inside the crate got worse, deeper and more erratic, like whatever was making them was desperate to get out. Max started acting more scared. He wouldn't go near the living room anymore and would just whimper in the corner of my bedroom. One night, I woke up to the sound of scratching, like nails on wood. It was coming from the living room. My heart was pounding as I crept down the hallway. The crate was shaking, and I could see it moving slightly, like something was trying to get out. I froze, not knowing what to do. Then I heard a low growl, not from Max, but from inside the crate. I grabbed my phone and called Alex, my best friend who's into all that paranormal stuff. He came over and took one look at the crate and told me to get out of the house. He said whatever was in there wasn't something I wanted to mess with. We left and stayed at his place that night. The next day we went back, and the crate was gone. I thought maybe it was finally over. But then, the following night, I woke up to the sound of scratching again. This time, it was coming from inside my closet. I opened the door slowly, and there it was, the crate, sitting there with fresh scratches on the inside. I don't know what to do anymore. I can't get rid of it, and I can't ignore it. The thing has made itself a permanent part of my life, and I'm terrified of what might happen next. So, yeah, if you ever see a free dog crate on Facebook Marketplace, maybe think twice before picking it up. You never know what kind of baggage it might come with.